Okay, the live stream has started, so you can start whenever you'd like.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Just as a reminder, it's October 6th, Tuesday, October the 6th. This is the CB6 Parks, Landmarks, and Cultural Affairs Committee. And my name is Pam Vassell. I'm chair of this committee. And this meeting is being called to order at, what time was it? 7:03, 7:04? I don't know, you took my, my time away. So I can't see, let's say 7:04. And we are joined by District Manager Jesus Perez and Community Associate Brendan Berth and Kevin O'Keefe, who is the Vice Chair, and Mark Thompson, who is the former chair of this committee and who is joining us because he has historical information and things that he certainly can jump in and add. So I welcome everybody. I'd like to say that members of the public, if you're there, you can raise any questions or comments through the Q&A feature of Zoom. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we'll field the questions from the public. So I'm happy to tell you that Jeannie D'Onofrio has stepped up to take minutes. So a big kudos to her. And now we're going to take attendance and Jesus will conduct the roll call. So Jesus, it's all yours.
Thank you, Pam. Hello, everyone. I will take attendance. You may, when I call your name, please unmute yourselves. And when your name is called, please say present. And I will make the formal announcement of quorum after the attendance. Pam Vassell.
Present.
Thank you. Kevin O'Keefe.
Present.
Thank you. Marty Barrett.
Here.
Thank you. Matt Bondi. Matt Bondi. Keep in mind that I can't see you. My screen is the attendance sheet. So if you're here, please speak up. Jeannie D'Onofrio.
Here.
Thank you. Anton Malner.
Present.
Thank you. Raj Nair.
Here.
Thank you. Reshma Patel.
She can't make it.
Okay. Sean Sherman.
Here.
Thank you. Mark Thompson.
Here.
Thank you. Ronnie White.
Here.
Thank you. Gary Papish. Gary Papish. Dean Stephanides. Dean Stephanides. All right, with 9 members present, we do have quorum.
Okay. So there is the agenda on the screen. So the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office, and it appears on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the agenda as stated or as seen. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the September 1st meeting were distributed ahead of time through the board office. And if there's no objection, we will adopt these minutes. Committee members, if you object to adopting these minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay, seeing no objections, the minutes from the September 1st meeting are adopted, and they will soon be available on the CB6 website. So now we need to set some ground rules. In order to conduct a very efficient meeting, Let's observe a few very basic ground rules. No one may speak unless granted by the floor. I guess I would be the floor or Kevin. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business and wish to make a motion, raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you can find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty. Non-committee members who have been invited as panelists to tonight's meeting, you will have a question. And if you have a question about committee business, raise your hand through Zoom. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us of any technical difficulties you're having, or to state in writing information that came up, like a website or a phone number or something that came up during the meeting. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. And we are required by executive order to create a verbatim transcript of the meeting. So please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Now, I've added some other ground rules that really pertain to this particular meeting. To begin with, Erica Rand Silverman will read the responses from her committee, and I'll read those names in a minute, which I asked her to assemble to address the issues that have been discussed. So let me read the members of that committee so that you'll know. If I massacre your name, I apologize ahead of time. So we have Erica Rand Silverman, Andrea O. Levitt, Erica Wolf, David Saul, Emily Breitbart, Lane Kukar, Courtney Nathanson, Kyoto Zuri, Brad Wizbicki. And okay, next, Steve Simon will respond to the issues that were raised by this committee. And let me tell you who Steve will be here with. First, Steve is Steve Simon. He's the Chief of Staff to Manhattan Borough Commissioner of Parks. Leslie Peoples, Benjamin Nicolosi, and John Ernsberger are part of the design team from the Parks Department. Okay, so Steve will respond with his team. The aim of this meeting is to resolve all the issues that have come up so that Steve can return in November with a completed design sketch. That's going to be the November 4th meeting. Remember the following things. As in anything in life, compromise is the ticket. If you want this, you got to give up that. If you want that, you got to give up this. So it's all a give and take. But what we want is for the community to love their playground so that your input will ensure that this happens. And we feel it's really crucial, certainly from the community board standpoint, what our members have to say and how they feel about what we're doing is very important. Kevin and Brendan will field questions and will read those with the questioner's name if they are germane to the topic. Some questions will be answered in the Q&A section, in other words, typed in response. If you have other questions, you may send them to info@cb6, spelled out SIX.org, and they will be answered. That's info@cbsix.org, and they will be answered. Now, I want to be clear about this. Normally, we so welcome members of the public to speak and have a huge input in what we're doing. But given that this is the third meeting on this topic, and given that Erica assembled this committee of parents from the two schools in question, PS 116 and PS 281, they will do the speaking for the larger group since they had meetings and they culled all the input. Let me just make sure I haven't left. I think that's it. But I want to be clear that at the end of this meeting, the goal and the aim is to make sure that the Parks Department and that we know what it is that we're going for and what it is that we hope to achieve by this meeting. And it would be great if we have consensus so that by the next meeting, Steve comes with his department and they draw up plans and they show us the beautiful work that they've done on the playground, and then we can approve it. So having said all of that, I'm going to turn this over to Erica Rand Silverman. And Erica is going to read aloud the comments that have come in. But in addition, it will be posted on the screen since it was sent out, but I'm not sure that everyone had a chance to read it. So Erica, go for it in your best theatrical voice.
Everybody get cozy. Okay, so just to let people know what's not here on the screen is that we did have a meeting about a week and a half ago where over 40 neighbors came. They were predominantly parents and families and guardians from PS 116 and PS 281, as well as some other community members who were not identified as parents, mostly people in the community who play with the Pickleball Association. And there was a lot of consensus in terms of the playground itself. It felt really great to be able to come to you all today to report back what everybody said, because everybody was in agreement, and I tried to record it, but I messed it up. I wish you could see all the kids who so bravely came to that meeting and spoke. They were amazing. What we also talked about in addition to the playground is the blacktop, because the designers from the Parks Department are making their design in direct correlation to what's happening with the blacktop. And also discussed was the garden property in front of the comfort station that's been privatized to the preschool there. Okay. So overall playground redesign response. The community is very excited and grateful for the allocation of funds for our neighborhood playground and agree that improvements to the playground are essential. Steve, could you reconfirm when construction would begin on the playground? There is concern that it will interfere with use of the park during the pandemic, when outdoor open space is vital. Could you also confirm the dates for the turf and how long that will take? So this, for many of us, this is like the only open space in walking distance. And through November, we're still hoping to be, and maybe even into December, we're still hoping to be able to bring our kids outside.
I don't know, Pam, would you want me to respond at this point?
Well, I don't know how you want to do this. Do you want to respond to individual issues, or do you want to wait until it's finished?
Well, many of these issues, I believe, are incorporated into our presentation. So, but this particular point I can address now.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay, so are you hearing an echo?
No, well, not much.
Okay. I have two things going here, and I'm not sure whether or not one is picking up on the audio. But in terms of the playground project itself,
Oh, yeah.
it's It's very hard to predict right now when construction will begin because all of our projects are basically on hold unless the contract awards had already taken place prior to the pandemic. So all of our projects were allowed to proceed through the design phase, but once they reach the point where they would normally go out for bid, everything is on pause. So so everything.
Steve, well, I need to interrupt you. There's a big echo. Now we're hearing it.
Yeah, all right.
And it's pretty intense.
Hold on.
So should we let Erica continue?
How about now?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay, well, don't go overboard. So to repeat, if you didn't pick up on what I was saying earlier, the pandemic has affected all of our usual timelines for capital projects. So it's hard to predict right now if we're still affected by the pandemic. Was 6 to 9 months from now when we would normally go into our procurement phase. Then I could, in a normal situation, I would tell you, construction is going to be at least maybe a year and a half away. But as I was trying to say earlier, if right now we're allowed to proceed through our design phase, but all of our projects are being halted before they can go out for bid. If that's still the case, when we're ready to put this project out for bid in the next 6 months or so, then it's impossible to predict. So the construction at a minimum is, let's say, at least a year or a year and a half away. In terms of the synthetic turf field installation, we're currently projecting that to take place during the spring, and we don't think that's going to take more than a month to complete.
Oh, so I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. So the turf will happen in the spring.
Yes.
Okay.
We may have previously said that it would take place in the fall, but that schedule has now been adjusted to the spring.
Okay, and I call everyone's attention to Kevin O'Keefe's little picture, if you've got it up on your screen, because what is behind him is, Kevin, you want to say?
This is a shot of St. Gabriels Park in about 1923. It is better known these days as St. Farton's.
So cool.
Okay, Erica, go for it now.
Okay. So this was not in this letter, but it was in a follow-up conversation. And since we're talking about the turf, Steve, can you tell us what is the turf made? What's the material it's made out of?
I'm not precisely sure. Most turf fields that we install nowadays, I believe, come from a manufacturer, I think, called Field Turf. And I don't remember. Leslie, do you know in this case whether this one is going to have the rubber pellet infills with the a rubber covering sand?
She might be on mute.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't use the rubber infill. We may have the sand infill on this, but I would have to check with the turf team for the specifications, so we can get back to you.
Yeah, but if we use the infill, it's virgin rubber that covers the sand. It's little pellets of sand covered by the rubber. It's
Okay.
So it's not that like green fake grass.
Oh no, well.
That's on top.
Yeah, I mean it's
Okay.
basically synthetic turf. What you might call fake grass, yes.
Okay. And then the others, what's underneath it? That would be good to know. Thank you.
Well, it's in between the little pieces of fake grass. If there is infill in this particular case, I'm not sure whether or not what we're installing in this case has the infill. We'll let you know at the next meeting.
That would be great. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Number 3, combining scooter bike area with playground area takes away too much usable space for the playground itself. As it is, the playground space is full, teeming with kids and families, and cannot be minimized to make room for biking, scooting. It also poses a safety hazard for all. Number 4, plans for the blacktop and plan to the playground are linked. The community is mixed on its feelings regarding the plan to turf the blacktop. Ideally, some of the blacktop would be reserved for scooting, biking, and and sport playing. Do you guys want to move the screen with me, or if you're hoping that people?
Well, we're still okay. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Sport playing that requires a bounceable surface. This is the only public open space in our neighborhood easily accessible for kids and seniors. And we proposed, or I proposed perhaps a compromise to Steve, and this was a personal thing, not a committee thing, that perhaps a portion of it, of the blacktop, would be left as blacktop, maybe to the west of the entrance, and then everything to the east of the entrance could be the turf. And we can pull up a photo of that later if necessary.
Well,
Number
actually,
5. Oh yeah.
Erica, let me just say at this point that
Yeah.
that I was personally on board with that idea. I thought it was a good idea, but the more I looked into it and the more I we looked at the possibility of doing that, I was convinced that it's not going to suit. It's not going to work for us because we, as it turns out, we need the full space in order to have a decent sized field. You know, adding that, keeping that portion as a blacktop is going to reduce the size of that field so dramatically that it could only be used by very young kids, and it would not suit our needs and the ability to have little leagues and kids like up to the age of even 12 being able to use the field. So it's really the bottom line is that it's going to have to be completely turfed.
Okay, but I have something to add, but at the end of your reading, Erica, and I think it'll be something that will make you guys pleased, but go ahead.
Great. Yeah. And Steve, at some point, I hope we can just circle back around once I get through this to if the community has sort of no say in our blacktop being used for youth leagues around the city, us being able to ensure that there is space, that there is time reserved for the actual community to use it.
Yes.
Again, it is our
We're-
own open space.
Yes, we're gonna do that. Well, I
Okay.
heard you loud and clear. We're gonna do that.
Number 6, what is the green surface being proposed on? Okay, we talked about that. I did put that in there.
Right.
Number 7, number 5, the garden area in front of the comfort station is a very sore spot for families in the community. All comments were in support of making that space usable for the community.
Okay, we're gonna come back to you in November. We're studying that issue. We'll come back to you in November with some comment on what we can possibly do there.
Okay. Number 7. Oh, number 6. I'm sorry, number 7. Oh, no, that number 6. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Forgive me. Number 6. What is the green surface being proposed on the grounds of the playground around the trees? Is that grass? Is it a green rubber surface? Is it painted blacktop? What is it?
Ben or John, Leslie, can one of you answer this one?
This is John. I think it's going to be a little easier for us to show you this in the presentation itself.
Okay.
Directly around the trees would be green space for plants. Directly around the play equipment would be safety surfacing.
Okay, great. Number 7, the community.
And the safety surface is not necessarily green.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay, so we're only putting rubber or safety surface under play equipment where it's required according to safety standards. We're not putting rubber around trees.
Correct.
So a lot of that surface, I think it sort of appeared to be this sort of like green area, so it was hard for us to tell what that
Okay,
is.
we'll show it to you again as we do our presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Number 7. The community is wondering why the redesign is only focusing on the boxed area and not incorporating the entire St. Barton's playground property. For example, there are ways to enlarge the playground by closing off one First Avenue entrance and making that area usable play space, or integrate the comfort station garden into usable space for the community. Playground equipment. The community is not in favor of the direction of the playground equipment and hopes for more of the following. I wish you could have heard the kids. Challenging climbing structures. They didn't use those words, but in general, the community agrees that the pole-like structures in the redesign are not good for our kids. We have engaged with equipment like this in Union Square Park, and it is the least used aspect of that playground from our observations when we're there with our children. Our kids of all ages love to climb and then hang out at the top. They love the current landing house at the top of the slide that exists now, for example. Would this be a good time for me to show examples of the equipment that the
No, why
community
don't you wait
selected?
till the end and then we can
Okay.
show, well, okay.
Okay, great. Number 2, monkey bars. These kids are singing for monkey bars and monkey bar ring variations. This is a huge hotspot. We need more of it. Swings. This is also a hotspot and we need more of it. More single swings for all ages. Our kids and grown-ups also love the tire swings because it is a group activity. We understand, you know, the limitations in terms of what that means for size, but hopefully by the end of this, we'll have more space to work with anyway. Number 4, houses and see-through tunnels and secret hangout spaces. These are the heart and soul of the playground. The littlest to the biggest kids love them. The kids use them for essential imaginative play and they grow with them. They also provide shade and cool down spaces. There's not enough of this in the redesign. Okay, number 5. Equipment with different landing levels. Kids love the elevation. It encourages climbing and imaginative play. It encourages group play and gathering. Another number 5, but number 6. More equipment overall. The community is looking for more equipment in the playground, not less, to accommodate the amount of kids and families who use it. Water feature area. The community is very happy to see that there are improved water features and that the safety concerns regarding the concrete steps bowl will be resolved. Thank you. We hope that the design can incorporate multi-purpose use of the new water feature so that that area is usable and engaging even when the water features are not in season. That was one asset of the concrete bowl water fountain area that was good. The kids play games in the center of that space and it functions as seating for grown-up and kids. Those ledges were used as a track for cars with little kids. It was set up with buckets and acted like a shelf for water balloons. It was a canvas for budding artists. Though we know they have to go for safety reasons, we'd love to see further thought be put into this area to hit some of the same successful notes. Table surface benches. Currently, the tables are used by large groups of people. We need tables that enable multiple families and large groups of kids to sit and eat together. The community uses the collection of picnic tables for birthday parties and school community get-togethers. Can you confirm that the picnic tables there now will remain?
Well, I think we're putting in different ones.
You'll see.
Excuse me?
We've got a presentation about this. You'll see.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
The spread out small tables alone won't support what the community needs. Also, the metal tables proposed remind us of the ones along the river, which get really grimy and gross, and we worry about that. Like, amazingly, the picnic tables, they never look gross or grimy. I don't know if it's wood or what, but they stand up so well compared to the metal. Also, it's important to have the benches face toward the playground area and not away from it. The gates, fences. Sorry, my notes are out of order. Okay. The eastern perimeter, the community is thrilled to see the gates at the entrances on First Avenue. And then we all met last night to prepare. And actually a couple parents were like, well, do those gates on First Avenue actually close? So I was like, I thought they did. And some people are worried that they don't. So some clarification actually on the gates at First Avenue along the street and whether those are opening, closing gates, which is what we were sort of hoping for, was what we really need. Western perimeter along the blacktop, the entrance there behind the baseball diamonds, so it's the southwest corner, is usually really helpful for families who are going between the two areas to enter without needing to cross through gameplay. So the only entrance we noticed is sort of in the middle. And unless you're, we don't know, unless you're envisioning some sort of fence or something, it seems to us like we need to keep that one in the corner. Could you look at those entrances through the gate again? A gate that swings open and close here would be fine. Inner and outer fences around the playground. So the whole playground has a fence around it, and then gardening, and then a fence. And we're wondering if that inner fence is necessary.
No, we're taking it out.
Oh, great. Okay, good. Great. And the same on the blacktop. Is it coming out from there too?
I don't know. We'll have to get back to you.
Okay.
But most likely, yes. Our goal these days is to eliminate superfluous fencing.
What a good goal for 2020. All right, fence separating playground from the comfort station. So that fence that's being built sort of as like a border around the playground, it was unclear to us whether that has a swinging gate to open and close, which may or may not be necessary depending on the gates on First Avenue. And just a note to ensure that any fence is low and that visibility from the playground to the comfort station is completely, totally clear, so that grownups can very easily see their kids moving between the playground and the bathrooms as we can now. One thing that really works in our playground is visibility. Sight lines. Right now, grownups can easily scan the entire playground, and this is a great aspect of the design that we want to keep. There is concern about this design that the sight lines aren't clear enough and that seating is facing away from the play areas.
Okay.
I just want to say, Pam, I just want to say a thank you, because that's not in this part of the letter. It was above it. Thank you to the Parks Department for all the work that's happened so far, and for your willingness to hear from us, you know, and to meet again. We're really, really grateful.
So Erica, I want to say before I turn this over to Steve and his department, that I want to personally thank you, and the committee wants to thank you for the input that you've given us. You really have been sensational in getting together with your group and organizing this in a very efficient and wonderful way. So kudos to you. And I think at the end of the day, the park will reflect a lot of the conversations that we're having now. So Steve, why don't you take over, and then we'll get back to to something I said we would talk about later on that might please you, but go ahead.
All right, very good. Well, I just want to reiterate your point, and this is once again with Community Board 6, a somewhat unusual experience for us in how we handle our capital project presentations to the boards. And but it's good to have the community input. It's one of the important bywords of how the Parks Department develops its projects, and the more community input, the better. And hopefully we'll all arrive at a consensus and a playground that the community will appreciate. So I'd like to now turn this, I guess, over to Benjamin Nicolosi Endo, our architect on this project, and let him do the presentation that we've prepared in response to the community's comments.
Steve, I have a few words first, if that's all right. This is John Ernsberger, and then I'll turn it over to Ben.
Okay, very good.
Yep. And Ben, are you able to give Ben the ability to put up a slide at this point?
Yes, Ben should have that ability.
Pulling it up
Okay.
right now,
Here
so
we go.
we're good.
All right. All right. So thanks again for having us. And I wholeheartedly agree with Steve. I love community feedback, and I love getting into this with you. And I think I speak for us all. We're here to discuss I want to make it very clear, we're here to discuss the playground portion. That's our job right now, is to look at the 4.49 million that we have allocated for the playground portion. So we're really going to be focusing on those comments here, but it's not lost on us that this relates to other aspects of the play area, but we really need your help in deciding how to proceed with the playground tonight. That would really help us to help you. Next slide, please. As you may recall, in February of 2020, community members selected the playground area as the top priority at the meeting there. And then last month, we shared a schematic plan with this committee, which received a vote of approval. However, shortly after that, committee members asked that we hold off on our design process. And we got to hear that input just now that was taking place at that point while we waited. So that's really great. And we received a summary of, we received all those comments and the photos, and we have these in this presentation. So don't worry, we've got your photos. And we have put together tonight not a finished schematic for your approval, as we might normally do, but instead we have a number of options for ways to proceed. So we're really looking for your input on 4 major areas of decision tonight. And that's what we really need from you, so that we can come back next month with a new schematic, which we hope you'll really like. So with that, now I'd like to turn it over to Ben, our talented landscape architect, to go from here.
Thank you, John. Thank you all, and good evening. As John mentioned, my name is Benjamin Nicolosiendo. I'm a landscape architect, and I presented to you last month, and I'm looking forward to getting your feedback so we can move forward. So this slide shows the comments we received at our community input meeting back in February. And these are the comments that helped us develop a design for the playground. After the presentation of the design last month, as you heard from Erica, we received additional comments from the community. And some are similar, some are new. For instance, a request for deck structures and no bike scooter track in the playground, versus at the input meeting, we had a lot of desire for a bike and scooter track. Climbing structures, of course, still remains a big desire. The slide is just an image from that presentation that we had. And this shows the area chosen by the community at the end of the meeting. As John said, we have a limited budget and cannot address all areas of St. Barton. So the playground was the most chosen area for reconstruction. And as stated previously, we informed the community that the multi-purpose area already has plans for the installation of synthetic turf, which Steve also just went into a little bit more detail. Just before this, just to note that it would most likely be installed in the spring of next year. As many of you know, the park is located at First Avenue and East 35th Street. The East River is a block away, and the entrance to the Midtown Tunnel is just to the north. And this is the existing layout of St. Barton Park. So we have handball and basketball to the west. We have the multi-purpose area slated for turf, the playground towards the east, a comfort station and preschool. And to the east of that is the garden. And 2 main entrances from First Avenue ramp up into the playground. And the existing playground has swings to the north and south. I'll show you some images of this shortly. Large play equipment is in the center of the space and divides it. Adjacent to that is a sunken spray shower right across from the comfort station and preschool. And along the north and south edge is a 4-foot steel fence. And beyond that, a 6-foot steel fence separating the park from the sidewalk. I believe this is the area that Erica mentioned earlier. And the last minor reconstruction of the playground was in 2002. There are many trees on site. There's approximately 40 seen here around the playground. Most are in healthy condition, and the root zones have to be protected. So this poses a significant constraint on where certain play features can be placed. These are images of the existing play unit in the center of the playground. There are 2 sets of swings, some of which don't meet our current safety regulations. So we had to sort of think about that and going forward in the design after our community input meeting and where exactly they could be placed. There is a spray shower that is recessed and not accessible. And this is the bird's eye view of the schematic design we presented to you on September 1st. It's based on the community input and our analysis. And just a reminder, the design area is a bit less than half an acre. So it's just where that yellow line is around the proposed playground design. And that's the area that we're going to be focusing on. So a consolidated entrance to the playground, it makes for a safer and more defined space. This was the schematic we also showed you back in September. To the west is a wider, more visible and accessible pathway that leads to the multi-purpose area. I know there was some discussion about the other entrances. However, in the community input meeting back in February, we actually heard a lot of comments about how some of those entrances were unsafe, that people congregate there and smoke. And actually, currently it requires going over some granite block and through playground equipment. So it is a little harder to access. But with these new comments, we could take a look if that's what the community desires, and to maybe perhaps placing an entrance there again. So as you walk in through the large welcoming entrance on access with the comfort station, there's a large spray shower that is a focal point when you enter. It's on grade for easier access. To the south is the area for picnicking. To the north, a seating area that's adjacent to the spray shower. And above that is a 5 to 12 play area. It has a lot of challenging climbing opportunities as requested by the community. The 2 to 5 play area opens up just below. And there is a generous bike and scooter area to the west and south. And to the south of that is more seating areas and a cozy 7-foot height swing set. This is the view from the proposed entrance when you first enter the playground. And as you can see here, these are plant beds. It's not safety surface around the trees. The picnic area, that's just to the south of the entrance with the spray shower in the background. A view of the proposed bike and scooter area to the west. And again, these are all images we showed you back in September. And as you can see, there's planting in these plant beds. And again, not any sort of safety surface. And another view that we showed you that's from the south end of the playground that also shows some more bike and scooter track areas. So the following slides in green address comments we received from the community. We just heard, I guess, basically all of them from Erica. We'll just reiterate what some of those major comments were, and we'll follow that with our responses in the slides that follow. And getting your feedback on what direction to take will really help us move forward. So regarding the bike and scooter track, the most recent comments we received is that the blacktop would be reserved for scooting and bike riding, ideally. Steve addressed that earlier, that the multi-purpose blacktop area will be turfed over. So the following comment we received is combining the scooter and bike area with the playground takes up too much space. So this is the option that we showed you back in September. It's 2 bike and scooter tracks plus an area for free play. An alternative here called option 2 is a partial track for bikes and scooters. The other half of the track can be used for tire swings, which I believe was another recent comment that we received about maintaining perhaps some tire swings. If we did, they could be placed in this area. However, because there's limited space, partially due to the existing trees, which I showed you in earlier slides, only 2 swings can fit here for safety reasons. Option 3 would be no track area at all. So possible alternative features for this area can still be tire swings, perhaps picnic tables and playhouses for small children. And these are the 3 options we'd like you to consider: the large track area, partial track, and no track. Next, we'll discuss swings. The main comment we received was basically more overall swings in the playground. This is option one. This is what we presented to you on September 1st. So there's 3 bays, 6 swings total, 2 strap swings, 3 bucket, and 1 ADA. Option 2 expands the swing area so that there's 6 swings in total. However, because we have a limited amount of space, there will be some impact. So you could get 7 swings, however, there'll be fewer trees, less plant beds, and less of a buffer between what we're calling the bike and scooter track area now. Option 3 expands the swing area on both sides. So this allows for 9 swings in total. And the impact is 2 fewer trees, fewer benches, and no planted buffer between the street entrance and the swings. Option 4 expands the swing area in a similar manner. It gives 8 swings in total. So the main difference here is that in this configuration, 2 ADA swings are provided. This configuration also allows for a small planted buffer to the east, which can remain. And there will also be 2 fewer trees and fewer benches in this scheme. And these are the 4 options we'd like you to consider. I'll put them up again at the end of the presentation.
Ben, could I just clarify one point? When you say there would be 2 fewer trees, we're not taking out any existing trees, is that correct?
That's correct, proposed trees.
Those would be new trees, yes.
Yep.
That's a
So
good
right now
clarification.
in total, we're proposing about 7 extra trees in the space.
Right. But in no case would we be able to remove an existing tree that's healthy.
No, absolutely not, yeah.
I don't think anybody would
So-
want that, but
right.
it sounds like a good option not to have to plant 2 more, but we'll see what everybody else says.
All right.
So these are the 4 options we'd like you to
Right.
consider.
Okay.
I'll just go forward to the play equipment. So the play equipment, we received a variety of comments, which Eric previously went over. Features, some of these features were already included in the design and that was shown last month, so we'll point those out. There was requests for climbing structures, equipment with different landing levels, playhouses and see-through tunnels, monkey bars, and more equipment overall. Again, just regarding that last comment, we are constrained by the existing line that you saw in the previous images for the playground footprint. So, and that combined with the amount of trees on site, it gives us a lot of sort of constraints about what can be placed where and how much can be placed within the site. This is the play equipment we presented last month. We added an image in the lower right, and that shows what this climbing structure looks like when it is used. So this sort of tunnel net climber in the center here. And here is another example of the tunnel climber. It's similar to what was shown in the earlier presentation. This is the 2 to 5 play equipment we showed last month. It already contains a sort of tunnel play feature as was asked for in the community comments. And another view of the 5 to 12 play equipment. I just like to reemphasize, we try to keep it very light and colorful and airy in the shady playground. And also this type of equipment allows for clearer sight lines of what you get with sort of a chunkier platform type structure. I believe right now in the middle, there's a very large platform structure with roofs, and it is a bit difficult to see from one side to the other with that in the center. However, if that's really desired, that could certainly be incorporated perhaps in some way, but there will be some trade-offs. So as you can see in this scheme, there's just plenty of opportunities for climbing and less prescribed play. We were asked to place monkey bars in the design. However, they were already in the design that we presented to you last month. However, we could put more if desired. So I just wanted to point out that they are here in the 5 to 12 area. And these are the images of the play equipment that the community provided us. So These images reflect the equipment that is desired in the playground. Image 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, I would say are very similar to the type of equipment that we showed you last month. Lots of net climbers, sort of modern design with plenty of like rope climbing opportunities as well. And image 1 was a piece of equipment that we considered several months ago in the design, but it was found to be too large to fit in the space while meeting safety standards. Similarly, image 5 has a footprint that is too large and also reduces the variety of play equipment that can be organized in the space. Image 6, which shows this wooden play equipment, this is not something that the agency typically considers over concerns about durability. And image 7 is a large cohesive deck structure. This type of equipment doesn't have clear sight lines, has a bit of a larger footprint. However, it's something that we can consider. And in the following slide, we have some examples of how perhaps there can be a sort of hybrid type of equipment, combination of decking, structures, and net climbers. And one possible location for this can be from the slide to the tunnel net climber. So we'd like your input to know if this is something you'd like to see in the play equipment. Okay, site furniture. The comments that we had for site furniture were having benches facing the playground, confirming whether existing picnic tables will remain, and that some of the small tables won't address community needs. So I'll address each of these in the following slides. So adding extra benches can be done in the 5 to 12 play area. They could be placed around that play equipment. However, this will mean fewer plant beds as a buffer. So we can fit up to 5 benches if we get rid of these plant beds. But the benches cannot be placed any closer because of safety requirements for providing an open fall zone around the play equipment. And in the design that we showed you last month, we proposed keeping 2 of the 4 existing picnic tables since they took up space within the area of reconstruction. But we can keep all 4 tables if we reorient them in the sort of vertical manner that is shown. And there will still be 4 new ADA picnic tables as previously shown last month. So the existing tables to remain are in the left image. Those are the picnic tables that are there now. And the proposed ADA tables are to the left, to the right. And these tables fit just as many people as the existing tables, and actually more so because they're accessible. So a person in a wheelchair can fit at either end. The existing tables don't meet ADA requirements. And also the proposed tables are a powder coated steel. They're easy to clean and have been successful in some of our other parks. Regarding fences and sightlines, we received several comments, some of which I'll clarify just going back to the diagram that we showed you last month. Is the inner fence necessary? We want low fences in the playground and want to maintain sightlines. So this is the fencing diagram. As you can see, there's a 4-foot height fence that stretches across the entrance to provide one main entry right across from the comfort station. That's that line in orange. All the proposed fences are meant to be low to maintain sight lines. There are not 2 outer fences in our proposal. There's just the one 6-foot height steel fence that is along the sidewalk. So if you look at the red line on the top and bottom of this diagram, that shows the fences that will be removed. And the gray lines indicate the existing fences to remain. Comments we received regarding the spray shower include a desire for it to be multi-purpose. We appreciate the comment about us addressing the safety concerns regarding the removal of the concrete steps to make the spray shower accessible. But we know that, however, you also kind of like the feature of the steps because they allow children to put their toys, buckets, other things on those ledges. So this is a spray shower design we showed you last month. It's level with the ground, so it makes it accessible. The spray features are also flush, which maintains a kind of open area that could be multi-purpose when the sprays are not in use. The colored concrete surface can be used for chalk drawing. Regarding seat walls or ledges around the spray shower, this is not something the agency normally does. We try to avoid that in the playground since it tends to encourage skateboarding and can pose some safety hazards. So what we really appreciate is feedback from the community board about what we discussed so we could move forward with the design. And I'll recap the 3 options for the track area. Is to have 2 large tracks, a partial track area, or no track at all. These are the 4 options we provided for swings, each with their own advantages. So please let us know what you'd like to see. And whether or not you'd want to remove plant beds for extra benches, and if you'd like all the existing picnic tables to remain near the comfort station. And finally, whether or not you'd like to have larger play equipment with decks and platforms that interface with climbing equipment.
So can we do this one at a, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say just once more, I'll just return you to the schematic plan and we could remain here for other questions and comments.
Well, why don't,
Benjamin, let me just ask one question. In the last alternative on the play equipment, do we retain the slide?
Yes,
And either option would still have a slide, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, that's
Right, and because the area for where the play equipment is now, it's a bit narrow, so that's why there's a spiral slide in that area, but it will remain, but it would have to be in that spiral configuration.
Yeah, I'd like to add, we saw that you liked the current configuration where you have basically a clubhouse before the slide. So that basically the idea would be to retain that idea in the new design, if you want.
Yeah, thanks, John.
okay, so Erica, someone from your committee has raised his hand. David,
Yes.
David
So
Saul.
just two quick questions. One is the green that you're indicating essentially around the play area, there's currently ivy that's all around it that really is a breeding ground for rats. I'm assuming we're going with just grass now there?
Yes, that's correct. All of that will be cleared and we call cleared and grubbed in the new design, and new plants will be placed there, plants that are less sort of invasive. So it would make that area also just a little bit more accessible and not overgrown. It'd be a better managed site.
And then the second question I had is, and it was something our group discussed, I know that you're looking at just this area, but and I believe Erica brought this up in her comments, is if in fact we closed one of the entranceways into the playground itself, meaning there's 2 major entranceways that come up in front of the school and then you enter into the playground. If one of them was closed, would that expand our potential use area, meaning maybe tire swings could go in one of those areas or something like that so as to maximize our overall space?
So it would, that would require some additional funding and planning. So right now we're only focusing on the area that is in the yellow dashed line. That's what we have a budget for. So those other areas are kind of off the table for now in the scheme. I will say going forward, if there does happen to be some additional funding that's provided for those areas, that would actually provide a bit of a challenge because the playground is about 4 feet above street level, so it ramps up there. There's also the entrances to the bathrooms at the comfort station at that entrance. But nevertheless, that we're only looking at the area within the dashed yellow line.
Benjamin, at our next meeting, and Steve, can you let us know what the cost would be in case, just so that we have all the information? Okay,
I mean,
so
we can look into it.
Steve,
All
did
right.
you want to speak?
No, I'll have a conversation with Benjamin afterwards. I'm not sure that that area really lends itself. I mean, we're talking about a curved path that leads to the gates. I don't know that it lends itself to having any play equipment, but we'll talk that over and come back to you in November.
Okay. All right, so how are we moving? You know, we ought to look at these areas one at a time so that there's some consensus for each of the 4 areas that you mentioned. So Benjamin, do you want to lead it? Steve, do you want to lead it? You know, how, I'm not a parks person, so.
No, Benjamin, go back to the slide about the 3 alternatives. What's the first one? The 3 alternatives for the bike track
So
area?
the 3 alternatives, yeah, it's so whether or not there's a bike and scooter track wanted in the space, it could be a large as first proposed, a large space. The second option is to have no track at all, and I'm sorry,
But
have
actually,
no
I'm sorry.
track at all, an area for tire swings and playhouses. Another option is to have a partial track for bikes and scooters, and a small area for tire swings. And I just like to preface that with the multi-purpose area at this point is going to have synthetic turf installed. So there will not be an area for biking and scooting in that part of the park.
I don't know. At this point, I don't. Maybe Molly Hollister or maybe Pam has something to say, because I understand from a conversation that our long-term planning director had with Molly today, there may be an alternative possibility for an area where the kids could bike and do scootering.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say one thing and then I'll turn it to Molly if she's still on. Molly, are you on?
I am. I'm double tasking. I'm on another call too. So,
Okay, so let me just say this one thing really quick and then I'll turn it to you. First, I would encourage everybody to get involved with Friends of the Park. Because in that way, going forward, you will have a voice, more of a voice. But what I think we wanted to discuss was 36th Street. Molly, do you want to take that discussion about 36th Street?
yes, we applied, and I think there was a transportation committee meeting, a CB6 transportation committee meeting last night that discussed this in more detail. But a neighborhood group applied for an open streets application, which is closing the street, and some of them are shared streets, some of them are fully closed. They're, you know, it just depends on the street conditions. But we recommended and we asked for closing 36th Street from east from the Queens Midtown Tunnel entrance to First Avenue. So as most people know that are familiar with that area, that's a Fresh Direct and Amazon unloading, loading zone. And, you know, it's a large street and we would love to see the bikes and the scooters use that space. So we applied and I think we heard back that it was declined, and DOT was on the call last night and said they are looking into it, why it was declined. And I had mentioned that we do now have a lot of support from the community and from the PS 116 and 281 schools and the parents and the and the PTA. So yeah, so we're pursuing that. And again, as of last night, DOT said they were looking into it, but we should really push hard for that because it makes sense. It's an underused street. It just makes sense. So I hope that we can make that.
Would petitions help?
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
it sounded to me, Molly, like, is it Colleen?
Yes.
She seemed optimistic, but maybe I'm being naive.
No, I would love, yeah, we just have to see. And they have declined some schools requesting open streets, you know, as we moved into the opening the school. So we'll just have to find out. I think when we applied, it was in, you know, April or May. It was early on in the pandemic, and it was this small neighborhood group that applied for it. And, you know, there's a little bit of labor that goes into it initially. Their pilot programs, their test programs, it needs the community to come out and support it and to volunteer again, initially to, put barricades up or, depending on the parameters to do a little work. So I think now we have the momentum and we have the
Yeah.
willpower to do it. And we may have not had that initially, but we have that now. So I think we can, she heard that last night. So I
And
think
something
it's,
else to note is that if the blacktop isn't being closed down until the spring, then that's for the family community and the pickleball community, if they can do it in the street.
yeah, we should test it right away. We should get that
Right.
street closed as soon as we can and test it. It's a pilot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I mean, let's show them that it works. And I think, yeah, I'm excited about that idea. It's an underused street, and we don't, let those businesses buy their own storefronts and retail. They shouldn't be using our streets for their commerce.
And no one lives on that block, is that correct?
Nope.
It's
There is a
why-
little hiccup that there's a staging area for the DDC water main project. So there is a lane of traffic or whatever that's a staging area, but the street is so wide that it still leaves a lot of room. And we can find out when when the gear and the equipment is moved from that block. But even if it's there, it still lends itself for bikes and scooters for sure, and pickleball.
So this solves a lot of issues. And that's why I'm suggesting that you get busy with petitions, because they're very effective. I
Well,
think.
Pam, let's follow up, and I'll have an
Yes.
answer for you from DOT. So we'll follow up. We're on it. But Erica, you and David Saul and everyone on this call and all this, the parents and the schools really need to support this. And so if we need,
Yeah.
we may come back to you to say, hey, we need your help.
Okay.
But this
All
would
right.
solve a lot of the problems that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, can we clarify like how this, so is the expectation that that we're going to look at these options and make decisions on this call, or
Yes,
is it a
yes,
Yes,
discussion?
please.
Okay.
yes.
So
If I
I'm
might
wondering-
reframe back to this a little bit, it sounds like in light of the idea of another possibility, but it's not a sure thing, you might want to consider this. I proposed the idea of considering the center option on the screen right now, because it gives you that flexibility. You can rely on this for scootering in case this doesn't work out for you, but you're getting additional tire swings from this other half of the area that we would no longer be doing scootering. So just as a, maybe consider option 2, or are there objections, is my proposal for how to move forward on this.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that if we're doing this now, it probably makes sense to, have the parents who are and the community members who are on the call raise their hand to share their thoughts about these options, because we haven't discussed these options, so now we have to sort of discuss them, and we can maybe try to spend a few minutes on each thing and then see if there's a clear consensus or not, which hopefully we'll all be on board with each other. But Pam, do you want me to call on the parents, or do you want to call on the
Well, I
parents?
think, it depends on if I'd rather you, since you
Okay.
know them, and it makes
Yeah.
it, there's a logic there, but I don't know that everyone has a comment to make. There may be.
Well, I don't know that
where it's-
and I'm sure
right.
that they might not either, but I think there has
So
to be
I-
some discussion if there's going to be, if there's options.
Right.
So,
Also, just to interject, it looks like Courtney
right.
has a hand raised as
Yeah.
well. So
Okay, so let's,
Courtney Nathanson.
Hi, this is Courtney. Thank you for the opportunity. I think there's a lot of work that has been gone into this, so we really appreciate it. When I'm looking at these 3 options and given our conversations, we all sort of agreed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, that the scooting space just doesn't seem safe inside the park. And even all the pictures that were shown were of little kids first testing out little scooters, little kids with training wheels, and that's just not the kids that are needing to scoot in the park. So you put a 5-year-old kid scooting, they're going to be in and out of those lanes. So my personal recommendation would be no scooting or biking within the playground area. And I don't know if anybody wants to either agree or, I guess, dissent.
I see that kind of, okay, yeah, you know what, thumbs up and thumbs down is really
Perfect.
helpful. So I see thumbs up from Kayoko, I see thumbs up from Erica. Hey, David, a thumbs up from David, thumbs up from Lane. What do you think, Andrea? Thumbs up. And I think that's, if I missed anybody, let me know. But it looks, I agree. We're very concerned about there being kids scooting and biking in there, and these little kids, they run free. That's what's so great about this space. That's what's so hard in New York City. You want your kids to be able to run free, and this is the only space they can do it. And so we don't want to have to be holding them back because there's a bike and scooter path in the playground itself. So we would opt for option 3.
All right, very good.
Okay, moving along. Next
Okay.
area.
All right, we just found out what's behind door number 3. Okay, now we have 4 doors.
Right. And just to emphasize about that, the last decision, so there will be no bike and scooter track area, right, in either end, in recognition also that the multi-purpose area adjacent to it is going to be turf, but that's not an alternative for bike and scootering. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Yeah, I think it's understood.
Okay.
Okay, let's
then-
go to the swings.
So we have 4 options for swings. Option 1 is the original that was proposed back in September with planted buffers. And then there's option 2, 3, and 4, which are various ways in which the swings can be expanded. Option 4 shows the swings with 2 ADA swings, 2 strap swings, which for older children, and 4 bucket swings.
So what do we lose in each one so that we know what we're really, sort of supporting?
Sure. So I can go back in the presentation to each one of these individually.
Yeah.
So we could more clearly see what is offered.
Not just what we lose, but how many additional swings do we pick up in each option?
Thank you, Steve. The glass is half full. Go ahead.
Okay. So this was the option proposed in September. So you have 6 swings, 2 strap, 3 bucket, and 1 ADA. So you have planted buffers on each side from the Comfort Station and First Avenue, along with the fence, a planted area that separates the swings from the picnic and seating area. The second option is 7 swings, so it's a little bit more in total. 2 strap, 4 bucket swings, and 1 ADA swing. We would lose the opportunity to have a plant bed on the west side. We would have 1 fewer tree, and that's essentially the impact for that scheme. Option 3 would be to lose plant beds on either side. So there's 2 fewer trees that will be able to be planted in total. Fewer benches, no planted buffer between the street entrance and swings, and no planted buffer between the swings and the scooter area. So this would give you 5 bays. So that's 2 straps, 6 bucket swings for younger children, 1 ADA seat swing. So 9 swings in total.
I see that.
And then the final option is 5 bays. So there's 2 strap seat swings, 4 bucket seat swings for younger children, and 2 ADA seat swings in this option. So that would be 8 swings in total, and 2 fewer trees. There'd be some less benches and a smaller planted buffer between the playground and the Comfort Station. And then these are the options altogether.
Can you tell me, because I don't know about the community that needs access to and I guess that can always change, but I think it's great to have was it ADA compatible swing? So some of them have 1, some of them have 2. I'm wondering if you as a community board have received feedback from within the community that we need more of this. I'm wondering if one of those swings could be for the bigger kids I'm just wondering if you could talk about the community and if you've heard from them in terms of needing more ADA compatible swings. I just don't know. I haven't heard that feedback personally.
Is there a ratio of when you have 9 swings, you have to have X number of ADA swings, or how does that work?
No, I mean, in general, we always try to include an accessible swing for, you know, for children who require it. So that's almost always a part of the proposal. However, in these 4 schemes, there's alternatives. So there should be at least one. There could be 2. And I'm not sure about your question, Erica. I mean, Pam, she was asking if there was anybody in the community, I guess, brought this up at various board meetings about having more accessible play units. That is something we considered overall in the playground design that we showed you previously. We had a lot of ground play elements and equipment that was accessible so that all children can use it.
Can I add that actually option 4 came about at the request of our ADA expert, our internal accessibility expert, who recommended this based on his knowledge of the community, that he thought that there might be a need in the area. But that's why we're including it.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
I think Emily had her hand up, Erica. Emily?
I typed in my question to the chat. It seems like the ratio is like more bucket to regular strap swings. So there was like one that was 4 bucket and 2 strap swings. Is it possible to do just an equal amount?
Let me speak to that real quickly. In the swings that you have now, I mentioned earlier in the presentation, don't meet safety regulations. So, and that applies specifically to ADA swings and strap swings for older children. And because we have so many existing trees on site, you know, there's a lot of limitations as to how far we could stretch the swing area and the safety surface. So that being said, as you can see, there's a bunch of trees behind and in front of the swings. So that limits us in placing, say, all strap swings for older children within the space.
Okay, so it looks like the max strap swings would be 2 in all of the scenarios. Is that right?
It could possibly be 4.
It could be 4. Okay, because that was my question.
Can we pick one of these, but then vary the kind of swings you have on it? I think is what we're trying to ask. Like if we want more.
I mean, again,
older
it
kids
also really depends on where the swings are located. So these are the configurations that we came up with based on the constraints with the trees that are adjacent to the swing set.
Do you need more?
So if you notice, for instance,
more?
if you can see this little cursor here, these strap swings are directly across from this entrance because there's no obstruction here. So it meets the safety requirements for a fall zone. The same thing is true for these ADA swings all the way to the right in option 4.
Okay. So the clearance basically
Yes.
makes it so that you can't put strap swings in some of the places where there are bucket swings currently.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, John, did you want to say something?
I was going to say maybe a way to go forward is for you to pick your most preferred one, and then you could add a caveat. We could look at including more. We could try to make it work with more strap swings. That sounds like you might be a potential request.
Yeah.
We could see if they fit, and then we'll show you next month if they do.
Okay, so then I'll just ask the parents, do we want to take out trees from the, not that exist, but trees that were proposed in order to have the maximum amount of swings? I think that's kind of like the biggest difference, right? Like that's a good thing to figure out. Am I right?
Wait, can we clarify one thing? I'm sorry, Benjamin, and this is probably all me. Where the swings are right now, is that similar to where the swings are in all these options in the park? Are they similar to where they are now in terms of, I'm just thinking of shade now. Is that the same space?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so
so the swings that in this proposal are essentially in the same location where you have strap and bucket swings right now. So it's on the south side of the comfort station.
Okay. All right. All right. And so Erica, not that you're asking personal
Yeah.
opinions, but in my opinion, there is enough shade. You do get sun there once in a while, but I think we could go, so I would put my thumb up to what you're about to say.
Okay, so
then-
Eric, are you counting thumbs now?
Yes, I'm gonna count thumbs. Basically we're looking at option 3 and 4 versus 1 and 2. So the question is, are you okay with having more swings rather than some new trees there? And I'll look for your hands. So I see thumbs up, David, thumbs up, Elaine, thumbs up. Andrea, you thinking?
Yep. Sorry, can you not see me?
You know what? Yeah, your thumb's like off to the side of the camera.
Sorry.
Thumbs up and so okay. So I think we're all thumbs up on the fact that we want more swings rather than new trees in that space. And I think what I'm hearing is that we'd also really like some more older kids swings, because right now we have 2, and it is like it is like a line around the corner. It's like trying to go to Trader Joe's trying to get on those swings. So if possible to add in more, I want to respect, what's needed for the community that needs ADA accessible equipment. And so that's a challenging decision. And I guess we would have to rely on John, on your conversation with them to really hone in on if 2 are necessary there. We don't even have 1. So I would think 1 is a great step in the right direction, but we'll leave that to you guys because that might be the extra opportunity there.
Okay, can we move to a next, to area number 3?
Yep.
I tell you, let me just, Eric, I don't really want to mention this out loud, but the fact of the matter is that older kids are known to use the ADA swings when there's no other kid around who might want to avail himself of that swing.
That's true.
That's been known to happen.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I mean,
I see that David has his hand raised. Do you want to add something, David, before we move on? No.
it's Kyoko.
Oh,
I just want.
I'm sorry. I saw that David's hand was raised.
Yeah. As you're moving into the next, so I don't have another comment on this area. Kyoko, if you do, you go right ahead, because mine's a separate comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to also, we all know that the smaller children, little ones, tend to come early in the day, while the bigger ones in the school, the bigger ones we usually take over those little ones anyway. So we definitely need more for the bigger kids, which is just isn't enough. And I was feeling a little uncomfortable. I don't mean to upset or shake up this whole ongoing conversation now, but I started to feel a little uncomfortable because we're just being asked to tweak, like pick option 1, 2, 3, option 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's just tweaking the original idea, the design that we really, I'm sorry, Benjamin, but we really didn't like. I'm sorry that sounds very harsh, but we went over and over, and kids don't like them, and we don't like them, and most of it. And
what is it exactly? Because I thought we went through all the comments.
right, so we're going.
Was there additional
Kyoko,
comments?
are you talking about the equipment? Because I think we're going to get to that. And let's discuss that, because it's possible that we just might need more discussion there, but
Right.
let's just take it one section at a time. So the swing section, it sounds like we're all in agreement, and Benjamin, you have the feedback that you need on the swings.
Well, we also talked about possibility of separating little kids swings versus the big kids swings, and that could also be together with the tire swings, completely separating.
So just to address that, as we mentioned earlier, there's size constraints and there's a lot of trees on site. So I realize that you want everything you possibly want in this one playground. It's half an acre. It's actually less than half an acre. There's only so much that can fit in it. So if you want more swings, that can be done. However, if you want swings in one area, another area, keep in mind, you'll lose the spray shower, for instance, if you want, because that's one of the few areas within the playground that doesn't have a lot of constraints because there's not a lot of trees around it. So you would lose the spray shower that's on grade, or you would lose play equipment for ages, say 2 to 5, because that's the other area where swings can go. It's not, we can't just fit everything in this one space.
That's what I was saying at the beginning. If you want this, you lose that. If you want that, you lose this. You know, it's a delicate balance, and in a not such a huge space.
Just a quick clarifying question. Sorry to interrupt, but the green, I think you called it, I don't know what the green protective barrier or something. Is it bushes? Is it grass? That
It'll be low shrubs and grass.
Okay, low shrub. So is it grass that the kids could actually play on, or is it low shrubs that the kids would? Oh, it is. Okay, so all these little areas.
Right. We meant some of these areas to be open so that they could be accessed.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
And then the city maintains the grass.
Right. We have a maintenance department that would maintain a lot of the plants on site.
Okay.
To clarify, we're talking about ornamental grasses, not lawn, not sod. Ornamental grasses is what we're referring to as grass there.
Right.
Okay.
So are we
What is ornamental grass? I'm sorry for my ignorance. What's ornamental grass? I don't know what that means.
There's many varieties, and they often they're a lot higher, and they perform a little bit more of a structural role in planting plans often, but there's really quite a range. But it's not like a lawn you're meant to sit down and have a picnic on. This actually occupies the plant bed and has a presence in a plant bed.
So it's not usable in terms of the kids sitting in it.
Well, for texture and for creative play, there's a lot to be said for allowing children to interact with plant material directly. So in that way, definitely, but it's not like a picnic area. That would be pretty unsustainable in these areas, shady and not very large.
Gardening.
I was trying to understand the depth, because you've got option 3 that has none, option 4 that looks like about half of the other 2 options. And is that just decorative? Is it useful? Is it decorative? Because if it means another swing or another something else, how beneficial is it decorative? That's where I'm kind of not sure about if we were choosing between the 2.
I can speak to that. So really a visual separation between user groups is often beneficial. So you have the adult seating area just outside there, and then you have the swing area. So a lot of times people prefer having a little bit of a planting between the 2. It's not required. We're getting into pretty details of design that what we do as landscape architects, but we consider all these things. But we're kind of putting it to you. But
and someone had raised the question to me, is that usable green space for the kids to actually play in versus more decorative? That's why I raised the question.
Yeah.
The answer is yes and no with usable. It's
good to know that it could be gardening space. I think that's very appealing to the community. But I do think, because the way we exist now is we have a concrete slab with equipment, and we've all sort of gotten used to that, So I think for us, it's important to have decorative space for appearances. I mean, I know our community has no green space, but I don't think the playground is necessarily that in the community, because we really don't have open space either. And so we want to maximize using the land for play. So having some of the gardening, I think, is very appealing, but if it's a difference between decorative grass and a swing, I think we want the swing.
Okay, well, I think we got your selection on this one. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's move to the equipment. What?
Do we need to make a choice about the benches? What did we just skip over?
Oh,
the benches, but someone just mentioned the equipment, so we could jump to that.
No, go back to the benches. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, this seems like a pretty easy one, I think.
We want the bench. What is this? So is the question if we want the,
If you want extra benches to replace the plant beds and the existing picnic tables to remain. So you'd have two tables sort of stacked, one right next to another, right across from the comfort station and just outside of the playground.
and is it not possible to keep wood picnic tables?
We would keep the existing wood picnic tables. The other, as we mentioned earlier with the previous equipment, those tables are not accessible.
Okay.
So we would have to provide a picnic table that is accessible to all.
Okay.
Can we use the RPL?
For what are you referring to, Steve? For the new
For the new benches, for the new picnic tables.
We could look at that if we want to use RPL. But,
What is RPL?
What is that?
It's called a recycled plastic lumber. It looks just like wood.
And does it stay so nice and clean like wood?
Yes. Cleaner.
Great.
So are we in agreement? What's the direction for this? The benches, extra benches, and keep the existing tables?
I'm just scrolling through to make sure I don't see any hands raised. But yeah, I think we've already discussed that we want to keep the picnic tables there. And so, yes, we'd like to keep the picnic tables there. And I think in terms of the
you want extra benches.
So the benches, the issue of the benches is just having more benches around play areas so parents can sit facing the play areas and keep their eyes on the kids rather than having sort of garden space, I don't like the garden spaces where tables they look lovely, but I just think that the priority is having seating facing. We go to sit and look at the equipment. We do. It's all we want.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'll
So
scroll through to
as
see
to
if
the
anybody
extra
else has a point to be
benches.
made.
Okay.
Great.
And then finally, we have the play
Wait,
equipment.
David, did you just want to chime in? Did you just?
I was just going to say that the one thing that we've seen over the years is it's like a nanny battle for benches. So sitting space is really an important thing in this play area.
Benjamin, just because do you guys happen to know how many benches are in the image you just had up before versus what we have now? And with that said, those crazy steps that have hurt people in the past, but also get used around the water feature, people sit on that now too. So to David's point, they're using every inch that they can to sit. But do you know a comparison of what's there now versus what's in that image?
I don't have precise numbers, but I do remember looking at it several months ago when we were looking at it, analyzing the space and what can go in there, and it is comparable. I actually do recall it's actually more with the 4 extra picnic tables that are in this design. So there's more seating options.
Are the steps covered with any surface so that no one kills themselves tripping on the stairs?
There are no more steps.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so the play equipment. Is there a desire to have a sort of a hybrid version of the play equipment? So as you see in this lower left image, play equipment that has some decks and platforms combined with climbing equipment for nets and ropes and things of that sort.
Yeah, can I just make one comment before we sort of launch into that? Those poles, just the like pole structures. We had 40 parents on that call that we did a week and a half ago, and every single one of them agreed that nobody uses those poles. So
that's an easy fix. We can get rid of the poles.
Okay, so it seems like wasted. And then also, I know we're going to get to the water. Well, I don't know that we're going to get to the water feature because I'm not sure that we had options there to talk about. But the water features are also poles versus perhaps like arches or other shapes that can be used, because I think I heard you mention like when they're not being used, you can use those structures, but again, they're poles. So are there other water features? And perhaps we're going to get to the water feature, so I won't go there, but I did want to make that note in case we don't have a plan to go back to the water feature.
Yeah, no, we didn't have an option for water features because we mentioned that it is that grade, and in terms of the space being used, we were talking about it being still being able to be used as a multi-purpose space because a lot of the ground spray features are flush, so it would remain open. And regarding those poles, those offer a variety of different spray features for those bigger structures tend to be for older children. So you have misters and you have different types of fountain sprays that go in a myriad of directions. Getting back to the play equipment.
But Benjamin, there's a terrible noise coming from your voice from your computer. It's just not your voice, it's the computer that's making a gravelly sound. It's very hard to hear.
Let me turn off my video, perhaps that will help. Any better now?
No.
No.
John, if you hear me, maybe you could.
Yeah, I was about to suggest that maybe I should take it from here. And then you can listen and chime in with your gravelly voice if absolutely necessary. So yes, we're in the middle of discussing the play equipment. We've got one option here is to change a section of this. And I know Ben just mentioned, no problem with the poles. We can eliminate those and we will find other things that basically we've got a pretty good sense of, I think, of what the community is looking for now. We'll replace those, but then the idea we'd really like to get your input with, because it takes time to revise this in time for the next meeting. There's a little bit of turnaround with these manufacturers, is should we revise basically half of this unit that's kind of outlined in pink here to more of a deck structure? It could have a roof, it could be more of a clubhouse. And would that kind of take care, is that kind of where you want us to go?
So I see that Courtney's hand is up. Courtney, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. I think the overall general answer is yes. We definitely like that. I think a few particulars, having this arch structure with this yellow ball at the top, I just don't know what that's for. It terrifies me to think a kid would try climbing up there and then essentially fall down on the slide. So I think, yes, some of the structures that you showed, there was a slide you showed that had 4 different images. I think some of those are more interesting, more to the liking. I did have 2 specific questions as well. That slide, is that as high as the slides that are on the structures that are there now? Because it almost looks like it's just smaller, like everything shrunk a little bit. And then
I believe this is an 8-foot high slide. We can go and make sure for the next presentation that we can be clear on if it's the same height or not.
Okay.
The reason why it's a spiral is because this fits in a tighter area, right? So we can give you a more exciting slide in a smaller area if we curl it up.
Yeah,
They
no,
like the spiral.
The kids love the spiral. It just looks smaller to me. There's a couple structures on the right. One looks like a bullseye. It almost looks like 2 circles just on a pole.
Sure. Those are ground. Oh yeah. Those are ground play panels. Sometimes you spin them, it creates an optical illusion like a spiral. And anyway, in any event, having these 2-sided panels where kids can gather is a real feature that is aimed at children with autism and other mobility disabilities. I mean, everybody loves them, but it's an idea of getting a lot of interactive things at the ground level. It's a requirement, but we go above and beyond typically with our playground designs in New York City parks.
Thank
you. For those. Did that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask, we have one less slide, it seems like, or do we have the same amount of slide?
Well, there's this slide in the 5 to 12 area, and then Ben, if you're still able to control and go over to the 2 to 5, just so we can see the other slide.
No, I'm talking about not that not the
Okay.
2.
So in the 5 to 12 area, we have the 1 spiral slide.
Okay, so we currently have 2. So less would be I think an issue for Manning. We have 1 spiral and 1 straight down. on one end. So if you could consider that as well. And then, yeah, I'm trying to see, even, so we, sounds like you do on, are getting what the community wants, what the children want, most importantly. You know, children are asking for more challenge, meaning they actually like to, they do like to climb up. The poles, they can climb up, but there's only way to just come down. So that was an issue with the children. They like to go up, have, be able to go to another place and come down. Continuations of that. The clubhouse type of theme is great. And also for the next meeting, it would be great to have, since now we have, we voted on the other option, not to have the track space, for scooting space, that maybe you can have a something prepared for next time for little kids area, like a little house, pirate ship, that type of thing for the imaginative area. That would,
So I think we're gonna get there next, Kyoko. That's, I think that's not, we're gonna, right, John? Do we
Well,
get there?
I think we've already kind of voted on that area. So we've got more area that's going, transitioning from scooter area to play area. So you're going to see us fill that with things we think you'll like,
Yeah, we'd love to see that
based on all the input that we've gotten from you.
Yeah.
I see that Emily's hand is raised, and just if you want to speak, just raise your hand because people are waiting. And that way I know who's waiting. Go ahead, Emily.
So I'm a parent in the community. I'm also a pediatrician here in the community. And I can tell you that, like any pediatric physical therapist in New York City will tell you that kids that grow up in the city have some delays in terms of their gross motor milestones because they don't climb upstairs in their home, and they don't do, you know, climb up hills generally, like things that, you know, kids who live in the rural or suburban areas do. So I think, you know, just, I like the, right now it's there. There's like multiple steps, there's layers going up, going down. You're going to different things, not just going sort of up and down from the floor, but there's different levels so that they can step up, like stepping stones, so they can learn coordination and balance going from one step to another. Just keeping in mind that, you know, for, you know, both younger and older kids, keeping in mind just gross motor, and that, you know, I think the multi-layered sort of building up approach that we have now, similar to what we have now, seems to be what most kids, like, you know, from crawling to walking, can pretty much use. There's like a larger lifespan of those, I think, of those kind of playgrounds.
And if you don't mind, if I can interject, this is Asya. I'm the vice chair of committee board, and I'm actually an OT, and I would actually agree with you, Emily. I'm glad you brought up that point, because some of that different sort of gross motor activities in these things are actually really important for the kids to experience. So I just wanted to agree with that.
Okay.
Can you, John, can you show the, like, that net equipment in action? Because it looks so different in action than it does
Yes.
in this model.
Yeah, we agree. We think the photo really tells a better picture of what it's like to play on it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The panels, I just want to draw some attention there. I've seen some panels, some really interesting panel stuff done, like in Madison Square Park. They have those chimes.
Mhm.
You know, they're like inlaid. It's so beautiful. So sometimes you come across panels that they're screened and they break, and they break so fast and they're never used again. And then you have some like those chimes that are just so brilliantly incorporated,
Yeah.
and they last. And so I just wanted to draw attention to
Yeah.
something
Well, we're
I've
working
seen
with a
very
really
successful.
great manufacturer here. I wouldn't be concerned. So, and we've got some really exciting musical equipment. I don't even know if Ben has really drawn attention to this over in the area and there we go. He's highlighting it there. It's kind of a musical play area. It's an opportunity in this park because there's not a lot of residential right adjacent to that area. So we've got musical equipment over there, which would be pretty exciting.
Great.
I think if I can just say something really quick, I think one point that we should point out is that everybody at this park loves the park the way that it is. Like, we have the older kids section, we have the younger kids section. And I think what the consensus, at least at the last meetings that we've had last night and the few weeks before, was that we just want to revamp, right? We just want to remodel, modernize. We love the way that it is, the little kids like area with the house, and then the big kids with the climbing and the up and the down. We love the tire swings. We love the swings. I think we just need to modernize what we have. And I think that was a big consensus, in all the meetings that we've had with the parents.
With more netting, with more of these climbing, cool
Yeah,
net
right.
structures, the kids love
Exactly.
them.
Yeah.
And as modernizing.
Right.
That's great.
So what do we have to agree on here, John? How can we be helpful? Are there options? Do we have an option page? Let's see.
At the play equipment option, we were kind of looking for the go-ahead to totally change part of the equipment. Obviously, we're going to be adding new equipment in another area. That was an option we already talked about, so that you're getting more things that we think you're going to like in what was the scooter area. In this area that we're showing now, we're going to try to make more of that clubhouse atmosphere before the slide that you have now. So we're going to try to recapture some of that, what you like about your current equipment in this area. So if that seems like we're on the right track, give us a chance to just, do it. We've heard your feedback, and then we'll come back to you in November.
It's more like the Tompkins Square playground, just as a reference, perhaps. But yes, I'm just going to look for a thumbs up that you're in agreement.
Well,
Sure, Erica, go ahead with the
that
question.
include another slide, because I do agree with Kyoko's point about the 2 slides. And then, John, I don't know if you addressed this, but in the little kid area, I might need to see the slide again. I don't know, the little kid area currently, when you just said clubhouse, they kind of have that little situation twice right now in the little kid area. And it also gives shade. And my kids are older now, but I thought that was good to have. And I don't know that you had that in the little kid area. Other than that, Eric, I give it a thumbs.
Well, there is a parent on the call who I saw made a comment in the section that she was actually hoping for more shade in the little kid area. Is that something that's already in the plan, John? I don't know.
We're putting understory trees where we can. Really, with this much shade already established, we're looking at introducing some understory trees, I believe. Ben I wish I had Ben for that part, because it's a detail that I believe that's the kind of the direction we're going.
Okay, so maybe just.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, enough.
Yeah, we do plan on planting understory trees as well as some larger trees, but the space itself already has over 40 trees.
So there are, okay, so it sounds like there are a few new shade trees we're planting as well.
But I just meant the equipment itself gives shade.
Oh, yes, with roofs.
All right, that's what I meant.
Yeah, and so we're going to,
right now.
right, so we're going to look at including some roofing, and we can do that in the what we call a 2 to 5 year old area and the 5 to 12 area. Sure.
John, is there a double slide that you can use?
Yeah, there's a double slide.
Because that's another option I'm just throwing out.
Oh, in the 5 to 12, not for a spiral though.
Not for a
Not that I'm
spiral.
aware of.
Not a spiral, just a straight up slide.
That's one way to get more slides. We'll look at all things like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna just look down the road.
Can I add one thing that we definitely talked a lot about the monkey bars being a hot spot. And I think my kids at least looked at some of the new plans and liked a lot of what they saw there, but they did point out there's not as much space to sort of hang and sit on top.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that that's definitely something that's included.
It's certainly possible to do more monkey bars. But at some point, I understand we're going to take something away. It sounds like maybe something we'll trade out those noodles, upright
poles. Yeah,
things
take away
for.
the poles, John.
Maybe we'll try to sneak in some extra monkey bars instead of those upright poles.
That would be great.
We'll look at it.
That would be win-win. All right, so I'm going to go down the row. So just give me a thumbs up if we're ready to move on from here. I see Courtney. I see Anton. Emily, David, Kayoko, Lane, and Erica. Okay, and Andrea. Okay, great. Oh, I see that David's hand is raised.
So I think we nailed that. We're good. So just moving to one thing. Steve, you had mentioned something earlier, and it just kind of struck a chord with me in regard to the turf. I know we're not talking about the turf, but you had said, hey, like, you might get 36th Street, you might not get 36th Street. Like, you're giving up the track, but you don't know what's going to happen there. And then you had said early in the very beginning when we talked about the turf, we can't go turf into blacktop. I don't mean to take everyone backwards, but can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because it's depending on what the sports are there that we anticipate being there, it would seem there is enough room for some things and not enough room for others. Or do you want to table that for the next conversation? I don't want to belabor the call.
No, well, I'm not sure what you're alluding to. The space as we see it is really just barely enough, it's not even really enough for a decent, little league regulation field, but it's enough for us to allow some little league kids to play there. And what we foresee is having a baseball, softball field with a soccer field overlay. So it could be used for more than one sport. But the turf would basically go from one end to the other. It would completely cover the blacktop.
So to David's point, and I'm getting phone calls from people who are on the call and on this call and can't speak. I'm so sorry, everybody, but they are concerned that we're giving up the scooting in the playground, which I still stand by the fact that I don't think it's safe. But I know we can't talk about the turf, but we don't know if 36th Street is going to work. And one other thing that hasn't been mentioned that I just want you to be aware of is the economic impact that turf is now having, that asphalt is now having because of the pandemic is huge. There are small businesses in this neighborhood that wouldn't be able to be holding classes if it weren't for that asphalt. So, and again, Steve, you mentioned it was going to be pushed to spring, so that's definitely helpful. But I think the pandemic's still going to be happening in the spring. And
I hope not.
I know, but I just want you guys to be aware of that. I mean, this is not so. We're all saying, and I'm glad we were in agreement that the scooting is maybe dangerous, and some people actually don't agree with that. They think it would be okay and safe, but I'm nervous personally, even though I've had a very strong thumbs up there, to give that up completely when we really don't know. And Pam, to your point, definitely petitions, definitely going strong for that 36th Street. And I know we'll talk to you guys again in November, but I personally want to make that clear that I'm terrified to give that up, not knowing what the future holds, because I'm personally not even that comfortable in the playground right now with my children. And all we do is go to the asphalt. So take that for what it's worth, everybody, but this is a little bit scary for us as a community.
Thank you. I appreciate it and we hear you. And, this is the thing when you want to open up space in a thing where we don't know what's going to happen, it really requires that everybody get out there and push, push, push. And then miracle of all miracles, it happens. But it takes like really diligent and obsessive fortitude to make it happen. But we hear what you're saying. It's an issue. I understand.
Yeah, so I can't promise that this won't come up again November 4th. It probably will.
Eric, if I could, this is Kevin. Anybody who does feel that they're not being heard, we certainly are going to get to the point where we are going to address questions that have already been posed in the Q&A box. So they continue to do that. We're certainly going to answer everything that is relevant. So we're listening.
Right, thanks for mentioning that.
Cool.
Okay, so let's.
Just to ask, just Steve, who handles the permits for the multi-purpose play area?
The recreation staff in my office, in the Manhattan Borough office.
So it's in your office?
Yes.
And in your experience, have you guys ever taken chunks of the calendar and set them aside as unpermittable because they're for use for the community?
I hesitate to answer because I'm not sure. I would have to get back to you on that point. And if we haven't done it in the past, I've already spoken to people here about how we need to do it in this case.
That's great. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. I'm nervous. I'm going to I'm coming to your office, Steve. Do you have an extra desk in there? Should we set up shop?
Okay, can we move ahead to the next issue? I think is the water.
I think we may have everything that we intended to ask you for a vote on. Now, you were about to say something about water, and I'm curious.
No, wasn't there another issue here or no?
There was just a conversation about the water area, but it sounds like John knows what we're looking for.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great.
And making sure, Erica, just one thing we said, it looks like there is a water fill station or a water fountain that will be in the turf area as well. So I just know that came up in our group conversation.
Oh, yes, we've got that too.
And John, can you clarify, is there a gate that closes on First Avenue at those entrances?
I was just looking at it on Street View. There appear to be gates to me that can open and close, and that's what we're referring to as the point of access. I mean, the point of control for children entering the playground. Now, in terms of whether or not they're being used now, it's a discussion to have perhaps with Steve.
They're not used
So
now.
maybe they need to be closed and then one opened when anyone comes in and out in order to regulate the flow of traffic going forward. But it's not something we design differently.
These gates are very large. They're not gates that you open and close when the kids come in and out, when the nannies, when the moms come in and out. They're to close up the park at night and to open up the park in the morning by the Parks Department. So they're not usable on a regular basis.
Okay, so in that case, perhaps we should look at putting in a gate at the between the comfort station and the spray shower. It sounds like since this is outside of the area of our project, the gates from First Avenue, but we do have domain over a potential gate between the spray shower and the comfort station.
Yeah, John, I think we need to do that. Yes.
Yeah, and it sounds like this is the right thing to do. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll look at that then.
Great.
Do the parents agree with us?
Well, I'm just
Yes,
thinking
100%.
that gate between the comfort station. So right now, my kids go, 8, 9, 7, 6-year-olds, maybe they're going to the bathrooms by themselves. So they're going to be going in and out of that gate all the time. Not to mention they like play around there, and you have your birthday parties around there. So I don't know. I feel like one of the biggest, keyest things that this community has been asking for as long as I can remember is gates that close on First Avenue, because I don't know how we're going to control that gate area between the comfort station and the playground is like realistically going to stay.
Well, it's going to be a 4-foot high.
Flow.
It's going to be a 4-foot high fence, which is a lot lighter, so it'll be easier to use. Now, I don't know if that completely resolves your question, but there is that aspect where it's going to be lighter than those gates at First Avenue. People tend to use what they can.
But if I could jump in, I'm so sorry I didn't raise my hand, but there is a flow on our playground currently that goes all the way to the comfort station and beyond, to those picnic tables, et cetera, where kids are constantly running back and forth and using that whole area. I think if you stop people from doing that, you will even make the playground feel smaller. But
I have to say we heard quite clearly that we wanted that parents wanted a way to regulate and be able to tell who's in the playground, who's not in the playground, and that's exactly why we established this new border. So it's a little bit in contradiction to the totality, but I understand what you're saying. But that's where this is coming from, is that we're trying to establish a little bit more of a check-in and out system so that you can know who's in the playground and who's out.
I'm just worried because you have to leave it to get to the bathroom. And you have children going there you're now relying on 8 and 9-year-olds to close that gate. And there could be a little 3-year-old hanging out right there, and an 8-year-old's going to run through to the bathroom. Her friend's going to follow. Her friend's going to follow. Nobody's going to close the gate, and a 3-year-old's going to walk out after them. And now there's this expectation that we have these gates, but in reality, they're going to walk right out the gates on First Ave, which was why the hope that the First Ave would have closable gates that you can open, like when you go into 29th Street Park. Not that that's a great example because that gate's such a mess, but like you can open it, you walk in and you close it And there's no, like, you're not worrying about a 9-year-old who's
Okay.
running, you know?
Well, it seems like we have now the totality of the input that we need to look at this. So
Okay.
I don't want to say that we're going to be able to do something with those gates, but it is now where our understanding has expanded about what
Okay.
the issue is. So let's give it let us give it a try in November, please.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, so Kevin, do you want to pick up on any of the questions that have come in, or?
I'd be happy to. And I think a couple, actually looks like 4 have already been answered, but I will pose one that just came in from Trevor Johnson. Are the existing picnic tables separated from the play area by the 4-foot fencing?
Yes.
The existing picnic tables that are going to remain, we're going to be relocating 2 of them. Maybe Ben can bring up a more appropriate slide. Will be fenced outside of the playground with the comfort station. So it'll be a place where you can watch and see, wait for someone who's coming out of the comfort station, or you can have a bigger party, but it's meant to be more of an adult area. So this might clarify it. You can see.
Well, it's not just for adults. So
it's for everyone, right?
For everyone.
Multi-generational area.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Steve.
Kev, anything else?
Yes, Courtney Hirsch just about 4 seconds ago came in. The other issue is that Parks Department uses the First Avenue side as a driveway, which makes it hard to install a pedestrian gate anywhere.
That is an important consideration. They do need at least one where they can bring a vehicle up. Yeah, we're aware of that constraint as well. I mean, might mean that one side gets a different treatment than the other. But we have to consider all this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to also draw attention to the fact that there was a question, there was a comment. I hate to bring it back up, but I see that Alfonso was sort of upset about the scooter space. So I just want to give some clarity so that people know is that when we held the meeting in a week and a half ago, we did ask all parents, in attendance. I really asked me to let everybody know about that meeting, and then everybody who came to that meeting, I said, please, make sure to email me if you want to be forward facing, that we only had the opportunity to have the amount of parents that we have on tonight, and we have 9, to be forward facing in today's call. And at that meeting with the 40 parents, there was no objection at the time to removing the scooter space. So our vote on the scooter space is not just 3 people's opinion. That is a reflection of the 40-person meeting that happened a week and a half ago.
Right. I think
but Alfonso, I'm sad that you're sad. I just want to.
Well, I don't, trying to read between the lines here. I think part of it might be that they didn't realize that the potential for bike riding on the larger space would disappear. So that's, and I think I mentioned this in a previous meeting. I've had 3 kids who all learned to ride their bike there. I hate to see that go away from a personal standpoint. So maybe there was an understanding that just because it wasn't in the playground didn't mean it was going to be, not be someplace else. So I think I would say of the constituents that I've heard from on St. Vartan, the most comments I've heard is about making sure that there's space for riding bikes. So I think it's a valid point that Alfonso makes. And I'll move on to a next question. This is one from, was it answered? No, it has not been. One more question. Tara Francis, the wait for swings is more for older kids swings. There are currently only 2 and none of the newly presented options adds to that.
Okay, so we are, as per the vote that we took a little bit earlier, we're going to look at an option that wasn't up on the screen. We're going to try to make it work with even more straps than any of the options we show on the screen, but we really have to look and see what really fits. Especially considering that some of the scooter airing is going away, we're going to look at the new set of opportunities and constraints in totality and see if we can get more straps. So we've definitely heard this feedback. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yep.
If anyone feels that they have not had their question answered, please repost. I believe we've hit every one that's up there. Let me double check. Yes, we have.
Okay, so having said that, I think we may be finished with this portion of the meeting and we would be ready to conclude. I want to say once again how grateful I am to Steve and to the designers for having been so amenable to work with us and to make this work for a park that's going to work for the parents. And to the parent group, I can't thank you enough for your participation. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of energy, but at the end of the day, the payoff is going to be that you'll have a park that you've had a hand in. And so I want to thank you all so much and thank the Parks Department for what you prepared for tonight, and think you did like a stupendous job. And given the time of it, of where we are now, and we've been on this meeting since, I don't know when, it feels like forever. I want to thank everybody, and I want to say that that what will happen in November is we'll see sketches, we'll see plans, and then we can vote and have some consensus, and move forward so that we can move forward with this park. I don't want us to lose money. I don't want us to lose time. And I want us to be able to complete the park so that we can go ahead with bidding and all the other things that have to take place. So what I'd like to do, does anyone from the committee, the Parks Committee, have a question? No. Okay, so what I would say is I'm going to waive my report. Wes, do you have something very quickly that you want to report on, or should we wait till next week and next month and let you do a complete dog and pony show then? Wes? Uh-oh, he's frozen. Wes is frozen. Huh?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't have a lot. We can do it next month if you want. It's totally up to you. I know we've gone a little, pretty late. So
I think, what one of the things you might consider next time is just giving us a little rat update. Sorry to be so gross about it, but that's the deal.
You calling my manager a rat?
Does any member of the committee have any old or new business? Okay, I want to just raise one thing, which is to thank Kevin, because Kevin made it possible through very diligent work to get the nets on the basketball courts. And it's just been wonderful. Everyone has been very happy. As he was putting the nets up, there were people saying, yay, we didn't have nets before and now we have nets, and it's great. It was a very concerted effort, so I thank you very much.
Thank you. I must give a shout out to Wes and John and everybody else. I mean, if it wasn't for obviously New York City Parks and Ashley at Partnership for Parks, it never would have happened. And one last thing, it's a work in progress. Wes and I are still working on Peters Field, but thank you.
That's great. And I want to thank Jeannie, because these minutes are, a real picnic. Sorry. And so having said all of this and having heard everything, if there are no objections, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Could I just confirm that the next meeting is on a Wednesday, November the 4th?
That is correct. It's the day after election day.
All right. I hope we're all in a good mood that day.
Okay. Oh, well, we won't have anything to be in a good or bad mood about yet.
Okay. All right.
So may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, it doesn't require a second. Look at that. Oh, so no objections. Adios, everybody.
Thanks.
See you in November.
All right, thank